Hello, and welcome to the Weird Waves podcast. My name is Taylor, and this is episode 25. On this week's episode, we are talking to Adam Robinson. He is the owner of Honest Art Projects. It is a maker company, we will call it, and we do talk about that description and kind of what that means in this episode. This episode is so cool. He lives in a bus with his girlfriend, who is also a maker and has her own company, and he talks about surfing, building boards out of wood versus boards out of foam, and the interesting and useful things that you can find in the garbage. So I really hope that you guys enjoy this week's episode. Also, if my voice sounds a bit weird today, it is because we are actually in Uruguay. We went to my best friend's wedding and I screamed way too much. So please excuse my raspy type of voice. But yes, here is the episode. I hope you enjoy it. Okay. Sweet.
How does that video look? Good?
Yeah, it looks great. It looks great. Cool. So, good afternoon. We're on the same time zone, right?
Yeah.
It's 3. So,
Yeah.
Where are you at right now?
I'm actually in Nashville, Tennessee at the moment. Been here for probably about a year-ish.
Cool.
Yeah.
And where are you from originally?
Originally from north suburbs of Chicago, like right on Wisconsin border. And then I moved to Colorado for like 10 years, kind of doing the snowboard bum life for a while. And then out to Lake Tahoe, and that's kind of where I really got into surfing more and more.
That's so cool. And what are you in right now? This is like your backdrop is like insane.
Yeah, I'm in a 1995 international school bus.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, me and my girlfriend Dallas bought it for like $1,500. It was the motor transmission I wanted with low miles, so I had already bought 2 buses before, but when I saw this one, I was like, we got to get it, and yeah, it's been awesome.
Oh my gosh. So did you do a full build?
Yeah, it was all seats. It was school maintained, so it was like really nice shape and everything. And then, yeah, we tore out the seats and everything in here we salvaged. So shouldn't say everything. We bought the solar panels and the batteries, but other than that, pretty much everything else has been salvaged.
And do you have like a heating like system, or how does that work?
Yeah, well, kind of. When we're hooked up to Sure Power, we have heat. I have a little wood burning stove that I'm gonna put in it soon, but we haven't been staying in it in the winter time, so it hasn't been that bad.
Cool. How did you let's maybe like reel it back a little bit. Let's talk about you. So your name is Adam,
Yeah,
and I only know that because of your Skype name.
yeah,
And so you grew up in Chicago.
yep. And then actually, I grew up. We would we'd wake surf there a lot, and that's what really got me into surfing. But I didn't really start ocean surfing until long after I'd been wake surfing and surfed on Lake Michigan. Um, but that was always like few and far between. It wasn't like, you know, consistent surf all the time. And we lived about 2 hours away from where I could surf in Lake Michigan, or at least where I knew of at the time. And then, yeah, kind of had the itch. I was snowboarder and skateboarder and builder, and that's what took me out to Colorado.
So you moved to Colorado after college or after school?
Yeah, after community college, and all those paths weren't quite lining up for me. I didn't really want a boss. I was just kind of more into the nomadic way of life, for lack of a better term. And then I did seasonal, where I'd go back and forth from Chicago to Colorado for years, and yeah.
So were you like chasing winter? Is that what they call it? Or
Yeah, for the most part. I had a construction landscape company, so I'd work all summer long, and then the winters were super slow. So I would pretty much just take off, and I shouldn't say take my winters off, because I have another company called Honest Art Projects, and we do like wooden surfboards and paddle boards and skateboards and pow surfs and custom backpacks, all sorts of stuff. But I would say I'm a maker. So, I would do more of my passion stuff on my winter time.
And you would do that in Colorado?
Yeah, pretty much everywhere since I've been, as long as I can remember, I guess I've been into art thanks to my parents.
And did it start, you just were like tinkering around with stuff, or?
Yeah, it started with tree forts as a kid. My parents were just like, here's hand tools and let us go nuts. So that's where it started. And then skate parks, I helped build a few skate parks in my hometown, and just always been a big fan of building things, especially out of reclaimed stuff, just taking trash and making it treasure, I guess.
That's so cool. So you're doing the construction thing, you are going back and forth between Colorado, and at what point do you start surfing more, I
More,
guess?
I would say when I moved to California, I took a bunch of trips to Santa Cruz, to San Francisco, and then from there I really got into it and went to Costa Rica and spent a good few months there with some friends, and that's where I really got into it, and that's where the board building really took off. And being a builder and a maker, from making my own board, it made me even love it more, because then I could go try it out and see what works and change things, and kind of just learn from being really hands-on with it. And being like a poor surfer skater guy, I would make my own boards, and that's kind of where my love for it really developed too. Is pretty much since I started surfing, I've also been building boards, and that helped me learn a lot about surfing as well.
It's so cool. So what kind of shapes, like, this has always been my question, like my biggest interest to people that build boards is like, how do you figure out what shape works in what ways, or like that type of technical stuff?
I mean, I just failed forward a lot. Like I said, I grew up wake surfing, so all the boards we used were like really small, like kind of thin, like not no real buoyancy or anything like that. And that's kind of where I started, and then I built stand-up paddle boards, which were like 11 feet long. I built a couple for myself and my family and friends, and then from there orders started coming in for paddle boards, and then slowly got into more technical side, like the surfing where the sharper rails, or you know anything. Sky's the limit when it comes to making surfboards.
Were you testing out like different shapes and things like that, or?
Yeah, as much as I could. It's always hard when you make a board and then it's for somebody else,
Yeah.
and you don't get to play on it, and it's gone, and then it's like, oh man, I put all that love into it, I don't even get to ride it. So thankfully, I've sold a bunch to friends, and then I've gotten to try a lot from there, and I have I don't even know how many of my own boards, but it's ever evolving as far as the knowledge of what I like and what works. And like with the wave, they're all different, and so can the surfboards.
And were most of them, or I guess are most of them made out of wood?
Um, when I started, I was making them out of wood. I make them out of I make some out of foam now. I prefer the wood ones just because of the character behind it and how much I love working with wood. But the foam ones, they're light and I can make them strong, and they're still nice. They're just not as organic of a material.
Mm-hmm.
And dealing with wood shavings opposed to foam shavings is a lot nicer.
Yeah. I could imagine the cleanup would be a little bit better.
Yeah, and it's just, yeah, I kind of don't really like the dust of the foam and the toxicness of the foam. So
Mm-hmm.
that's why I really prefer wood. It's just a dusty wood shop from wood is way different than foam. It's just, I don't know, it just never seems to fully go away, where wood dust just is, it seems a lot more green.
What is the biggest difference between like a traditional foam board and a wooden surfboard? I don't think I've actually seen a wooden surfboard.
Well, the wooden ones. I make a few varieties. I make like hollow core or a foam core. The wood ones are definitely a little bit heavier, but they handle a little bit better in like choppy, kind of not as glassy conditions. But the foam ones are, as far as a nice glassy day, they're light and easy to maneuver.
That's so cool. And I'm just gonna ask you to just if you could turn my volume down just so you can hear me, but not enough so that it'll
That,
help.
yeah,
Yes.
cool.
Okay, good, 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 good. Because like if it's quiet enough, then your mic won't pick up my
The
voice. You know what I'm
feedback.
saying?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
okay, sweet.
Right.
So and so your business that you have now, what is it called?
It's called Honest Art Projects.
And how did you get the idea to start it?
Um, when I was in high school, we started off pressing skateboards and making like hoodies and pretty much selling to like our skate friends and all of our other friends. And that's kind of what got me liking it. And when we were young, we were skating this loading dock where like trucks would go back into, and we got in trouble because they thought we broke off the concrete from the trucks hitting it from just ollieing off the loading dock. So that's how I learned the word. It means like taking responsibility for something that isn't yours or having it put on you. Um, and that's kind of how I found out the word and wanted that to be the name.
Oh, Honest Projects?
Yeah, Honest Art Project.
Oh.
Yeah,
Oh, that's cool.
yeah. So that's kind of where it came from. But as far as wanting to do a brand or something like that, it was pretty much always being an artist and having like piles of stuff kind of stack up that I don't know, what are you going to do if you like screen printing and you don't sell t-shirts or something, you know? It's like, well, you kind of got to find a way to, if you want to keep it going, to share it with people, you know?
And how long have you had the company or
I've had it since I've been in high school to, you know, more some years and less some years because I was just a young guy kind of cruising around. But now it's pretty much all we do, and I've had it for years. I guess it's yeah. I don't know. It's kind of a weird one because some years have definitely been full on, and some have been where I get 130 days of snowboarding a year, and some days I can't. You know.
yeah. How is it how does it feel to have that as your main like is that your main source of income? Like how does
Yeah.
that feel?
It feels really good. It's been a lot of work to get here,
That's
but
cool.
yeah, it feels really good. And like it being like close to the holidays, it's always our busiest time. But um, yeah, it feels great. It allows me, and my girlfriend, to travel on the bus and kind of be free, I guess.
Do you like have a workshop where you make their things?
Yeah, I lost the audio from you.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yeah, sorry.
Okay. Yeah, that's fine. So do you have like a studio space where you make everything?
Um, when I was living in South Lake Tahoe, I did. I had a few shops there, but it's pretty much in the bus, and I do little makeshift workshops wherever we are. Um, but I don't really need a whole lot of room at the moment, as much as I'd like it. I get I get by with pretty much the bus and some little spots inside, but
Do you keep all your inventory inside your bus too?
sometimes, yeah, we have like
That's so cool.
yeah, it's hard when we have like lots of surfboards. Right now I have a few surfboards that are still out in California, and I have a few that are stored in our bathroom in the back. I don't know if you can see that, but um, yeah, it gets crammed. But my girlfriend also has a candle company called Tough Peach, so we also have that with us as well. That's what we also do as far as work. It's not just this, so we both do our own brands, but it's kind of mobile.
That's so cool.
Hey,
It's such a that's just so interesting. I mean, like you hear of people, doing like van life and stuff, but not also with a retail
yeah,
business
yeah,
inside of it. It's
thanks.
crazy. It's so
Yeah, it's we're not like full-time van life all the time.
Okay.
It's we go through spurts where like right now we're living in Nashville and we're converting this house that we got that's just destroyed, and we're doing 2 houses, and it's just a whole lot of work. We're kind of can't wait for it to get done to get back traveling again, and so it has its times.
So you're converting houses? You're like fixing them up?
Yeah, that's why we're out here, else we would definitely still be back out in California.
Why Nashville?
My sister lives out here, and we had some good opportunities, and we took them. And that was around the time where Tahoe was getting really expensive, and just with like Airbnbs hitting off there, it was really hard to find somewhere that was like affordable to live, and we couldn't afford to buy anything at the time, and so we were kind of like, well, let's go check out what else there is. So we came out here to fix up a couple houses to hopefully make some money to get back out west.
Are you planning on like flipping the houses?
We're renting one out right now on Airbnb,
Mm-hmm.
and we're gonna do this next one as well. But the second one we bought is on a lake, so I get to go paddleboard right out
Oh,
my
that's
back
awesome.
door. So it's really nice. And a friend up the road has a boat, and so we've gotten to go out with her a few times wake surfing. It's hard to beat that California attitude where everyone in Tahoe does some form of sliding that's fun, whether it's skiing, snowboarding, surfing, blah, 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 everything that the mountains offer. Being in Nashville, there isn't a whole lot of that. Besides, I go paddleboard and skate here and take trips, but it's hard to beat that California life.
Is Nashville like slower paced than California or
I would just say maybe different. Yeah,
okay.
not as much of like our people as being in the mountains and being around like people that just ski and snowboard and surf and skate, and Nashville, that's a little few and far between. There isn't really a scene that I've, from my short time being here, that I've really like tapped into as far as like a big culture of it here. But like I said, I just got here, so I'm sure there is. I'm just not tapped into it.
Yeah, I actually don't know either. I haven't heard. I wonder, I feel like there's some rivers that
Yeah, there's a
are
river you can surf. That's I think it's called like Rock Island,
mm,
where a waterfall meets to a river, and I still haven't made it out there. It's probably about 2.5 hours from where I am. Uh, but yeah, that's definitely on the list while I'm out here.
that's cool. I'll have to look into that one.
Yeah.
It's cool to know all the different areas that. So how many places have you taken your bus?
God, I don't even know. When we fixed it up, we fixed it up quick. It only took us about 3 months, and then we just drove slow, pretty much zigzagging from California all the way out to here. The whole trip probably took um, three months trip-ish, something like that. We have a dog that has really bad anxiety in the car,
Oh
so
man.
yeah, he can only take it for about 2 hours, and then he's drooling and panting, and I feel like a monster because he hates it so much. So we find some BLM land and uh, camp out. And
What's BLM?
Bureau of Land Management. It's kind of weird. Like, it's not really that known of a thing as far as like sites and stuff go. It's not like you can just type it in and be like, oh, where's BLM camping? You have to go to like different apps and things, but it's pretty much like publicly owned land that you can camp on for like up to 14 days was most of the places we stopped. So on our drive, we'd find like these beautiful places, and you could camp for free like 14 days. And that's only if somebody sees you or like takes note. If not, you can just kind of camp for as long as you'd like.
Man, that's pretty sweet.
Yeah, but there's like some apps like freecampsites.net, I think, is one we used a lot, and it's just kind of different Google searches to find the good campsites or ones that the bus will be good in, because in the mountain regions, some of the campsites are, you know, hike in only, even though it says free camping. It's like you can't just get the bus into it, you know?
So how does it work? It's just because it's owned by the government, the land
Yeah,
is accessible to
yeah,
everybody?
yep. It's pretty much just like state land, protected land where, yeah, I don't really know a whole lot about it. I think state parks kind of tie into that, but they have different rules as far as like there's more people regulating them. Um, but yeah, BLM land is something that people are traveling around to definitely look into.
That's so cool. I've heard of like I have a friend that's doing she's probably doing that. She talks about boondocking or whatever.
Yeah,
So maybe it's a similar thing, but she said they find stuff on some like an app or something,
yeah,
but I didn't know that it was government property
yeah,
or that's cool.
yeah. It's another good resource for it is like hunting websites. A lot of hunters will use that land. So
Oh,
that's what we found is to find the spots, you can find BLM land through hunting sites. But yeah,
that's so cool.
yeah, because when we were out in Tahoe, we went down to Sacramento area and we were camping down there for like a week, and we got hassled like everywhere we went. Like it was just, no, we couldn't park on any street, not even like during the day, without somebody being like, "What are you doing down here? What's the bus? You can't be here." So um, that was like our first trip out, and we were like, "All right, we got to figure something out," because we were getting hassled a lot. And then since then, we've camped all over in places we probably even shouldn't have been, and no one's really said anything to us since.
What what do you do for like safety precautions? Is there anything that you kind of look out for or
Um, Not really. It's kind of like situational. Definitely. Yeah, I mean, not really. Everywhere's been pretty safe. I feel like that we go. We don't really go to the cities a whole lot. That's probably where you'd have to worry a little more. But mostly we're camping and uh, in pretty secluded places. We were in Nebraska one time, and we found this like little BLM spot. It was kind of like a boat launch looking area, and Dallas and I, my girlfriend, both got like a little bit of a weird feeling, but we had driven all day. We're like, all right, let's just give it a try. Let's camp here. And around like midnight, this truck comes up and like shines its lights right on us. So we wake up like, oh, it's a little weird. And then they like back down this weird little trail. And we were a little freaked out, like, what's this guy doing? We're kind of in an area that people shouldn't be at, like late at night. And I don't know, I guess he was probably just fishing or something and left. But that was pretty much the extent of like thinking we were going to get killed out in the woods.
That's pretty good. That's
Yeah,
pretty good. You've had a pretty good experience, I say.
yeah, it's been good and minor breakdowns and yeah, can't complain.
Do you have to kind of become a mechanic to
Uh, it helps, I would say. Uh, I had a thermostat problem right when we left too. We were heading into Reno from Tahoe, and my thermostat went out, and the bus was overheating, and I pulled over, and I was like, "All right, it's got to be, a couple things," and I was able to change the thermostat on the side of the road, a few little gas line things, but knock on wood, nothing that I couldn't handle yet.
That's again, that's pretty good odds. What made you decide to do the bus?
Um, I've always kind of been into buses when I was really young, probably like 18. I had like a mini bus that was pretty much like a skate ramp vehicle. We had like a little fold out mini ramp in there and some bunk beds, and it was like a skate trip vehicle. And it was just so fun just to pack all your friends in there and go on journeys. And that I was sold since then. And buses are surprisingly really cheap. To buy like a truck or a van with the same motor transmission that I was looking for would have been like thousands, $20,000, and I was able to get it for $1,500. So it's a big difference in price because I think a lot of people don't want to drive buses around, I guess. I don't know.
Is it, what's the fuel like?
It's surprisingly good. It's about my truck, so it's probably around 14 miles per gallon ish, depending on where we are and how I'm driving.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's not bad. I mean, I would love to get it set up as a veggie oil bus, but um, I can only handle so many projects at once. So I'll,
Yeah, that would be like a whole conversion, right? You have
yeah.
to put
Well,
in special.
it's an extra tank with like a little heater and like you know a valve that switches from diesel to veggie oil. Um, I'm really green at it. I haven't done any kind of conversions like that yet, only in research. But yeah, one day that'll happen.
That's wild because then you can go to like fast food restaurants, right? And get all
Yeah.
their like spent oil and everything.
Yeah, I have another friend. He has a free tea bus. He drives around giving people like free tea, and he has this like cool little mini bus that he has totally decked out, and it's
Like
got
herbal teas?
yeah, like herbal teas. Yeah, he's just like the nicest guy. His name's Giuseppe, and the free tea party is what it's called, and
Oh,
he converted his to veggie oil, and it's just doesn't smell. It's like so dialed in. He gets like insane gas mileage, and he's driven it for a long time, so not a lot of like motor problems that he can see. So
that's crazy.
yeah,
That's really
that,
cool.
if that's the case, you're pretty much getting free gas, and it's like let the traveling begin.
Right. And then you're also helping a waste problem.
Yeah, I know a lot of the that veggie oil gets sold again.
Oh,
Um,
really?
yeah, a lot of people now have been they can sell their waste veggie oil to different people that convert it for reuse of I'm sure tons of different aspects, but
So interesting.
yeah.
How did you decide on the design and like what you wanted to have inside of the vehicle?
Um, I guess why I decided on the bus, the size was because me, my girlfriend, and my dog, with all of our crafts and hobbies, um, we kind of needed a lot of room, and a van was just kind of too small for us and all of our hobbies. So it was pretty much space to fit all of our stuff. So even as far as like the design, like just lots of cubbies and shelves and certain areas for things, and which I'll probably always be working on it because every trip we go on, I'm like, oh, I want to change this way, and I want to adapt things all the time. But yeah, it's ever changing.
Is there like specific places where you have to put things?
Uh, not not really. I tried to like spread the weight out as much as I could so one side wasn't really heavy.
Ah,
But yeah, I put the gray water tank. I made that out of an old keg, and I put that underneath the bus, kind of in between the frame where you can't really see. And yeah, it's all just kind of trial and error, picking and putting where we find it best, I guess.
that's so cool. And for the business, did you kind of try to focus on one specific thing and then build it, or is it just kind of whatever?
Yeah, that's kind of that's a hard part we have is that uh, I have lots of different passions, and it's hard to pinpoint one thing that I would really want to do like
Mm-hmm.
all the time. Like started off pressing skateboards and clothes, and then got into making bags and doing lots of like custom bags and sewing and mittens. It's yeah, we have a lot of different things we make, so it's really hard to even say what we do. Like that's kind of why I went with art projects, because it's hard to say like, oh, we're just surfboards, because there's just so much that strikes our fancy that we can't just pin it down.
Yeah, and do you have a system for how you like ship things? Like, are you driving every day to ship stuff out,
Uh,
or?
we do stamps.com, and they do pickup. So um, if we're out and about, we'll drop it off at the post office, but usually stamps.com, it's just so easy. like we're lucky to have everything the internet has to offer because traveling's never been easier. Finding spots has never been easier. Finding, places to camp or anything. It's just like it's so easy. We don't feel like we don't have a home. It's just moves around.
So that's really, really cool. And so for the bags, you're creating the designs from scratch, or how do you come up with an idea
Um,
for that?
how it started is I wanted a certain bag that held all my stuff directly in an overhead bin where I could just have like my carry-on bag, but it would fit maximum in a plane as far as like what it would hold. So that's kind of what got me to making bags. And then I designed the templates and sew them all and pretty much just trial and error. A lot of that stuff too. I didn't have any like real training or teaching. I didn't go to school for any of it. It's all just kind of, yeah, trial and error.
That's awesome. I mean, that's sometimes that's the best way to learn things. I mean, it
Yeah.
can hurt sometimes,
Yeah.
but
Take a lot longer.
yeah, I mean, we're doing the same thing. We're doing the exact same thing. It's just trial and error. Like,
Yeah.
this said this wrong. Shouldn't
Yeah.
say that next time, maybe.
I know. Oh, I said like 72 times. I better stop that. So
Yeah, exactly. Or so. Like I've been saying so and then asking a question,
uh-huh.
working on that because that's annoying. You
Oh,
hear that too many times, you're like, oh.
yeah. I mean, I used to make a lot of like skate edits as a kid, and like we'd hear our voices and be like, "Oh my god, I can't believe I sound that way," and it would just be like crushing to think your voice sounds like a Smurf, and then or whatever, and then you're like, whatever.
Yeah, it's
Right?
weird. It used to bother me way more. Now I don't know. I think the first time you hear your voice or first couple times you're like, "Oh, good Lord, why does anyone want to hear me talk?" Like it's just awful. But
Right?
then it gets better because I don't know, I think you kind of just get more comfortable with it and you're like, "Well, even if my voice is annoying, this is the one I've got and I
Yeah.
don't know how to change
Take
it."
it or leave it. This is me.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, where all have you traveled for surfing specifically?
Um, Around the Midwest, I've gone to Lake Michigan, in a few different spots. Out in Tahoe, you can surf the lake in Tahoe when it's really windy.
Oh,
So
really?
yeah, so I've surfed Nevada there, um, which is that's an experience in itself. I had actually had my closest to death experience surfing Lake Tahoe on a windy.
Really?
Yeah, I've surfed Costa Rica and I've gone to Baja and all over the California coast. And one of my scariest times was actually on Lake Tahoe, just freshwater surfing.
What happened?
Um, it's me being an idiot. I couldn't find my leash, and I kind of like makeshifted a leash really quick,
Uh,
and me and my friend Dante went out surfing. Well, he was in his kayak, and it was extremely windy day. It was probably like 70-mile-an-hour winds, and um, I caught this wave. I have footage of the whole thing too. I have a video I can share with you, but I caught this wave. Nothing special, and it was done. I fell off. My leash broke and went into shore. But it was so windy, and I had a hood and booties and gloves and like fully restricted. And every like 20 feet was another frothy wave. And going to try to paddle in, it was so hard to read what was coming from behind me. I took on, a bad breath and had to rip my hood off and like had to tell myself like, you're not going to die right now. You're not going to die. And just pretty much muscled it into shore and got in there, and like my whole body was pulsating, and like it just, yeah, it was horrible. And it was just me out there pretty much because my friend was up the beach, like didn't even know anything was even wrong.
that's so scary, and those things can happen on the lake. because there's literally no one.
Yeah, there's nobody. Yeah, there's no one even outside watching. It's just like it's a bad day. No one's anywhere near. And I've definitely, which I know better, being in the mountains, you never want to go out by yourself. You never really want to, like, it's good to have the buddy system when you're doing dangerous stuff. And I went out with a friend, but we were so far apart that it was useless. It wasn't even having like a friend around you.
Well, you went in together. I mean, that's like,
Yeah,
better than, I guess, going completely by yourself.
right. So how about you? Where do you surf in Indiana a lot?
Yeah, so we live at the bottom of Lake Michigan in Michigan City, Indiana. It's like in between New Buffalo, Michigan and like yeah, we live like if Michigan City, the city is like right here and New Buffalo is like right here. We live right in the middle. We're like 3 minutes away from the Michigan border.
Cool.
And yeah, it's awesome. Most of the time we surf just like right at the beach that's closest to us
Yeah,
because I always tell people like most of the time it's just us, like it's just Andre and I out there just by ourselves.
yeah.
And even, it might be a little bit nicer in St. Joe or down in like Portage or something, but it's like it's pretty good here. So
I kind of love that, like Santa Cruz and like all that area is so vibey. It turned me off a lot. I didn't like going surfing there because it wasn't. I shouldn't say I didn't like going surfing there. I didn't like some of the attitudes that were around where it's very like, if you don't live there, get out of here. Which I understand, but it's nice when you go surf somewhere small where people are, I don't know, it's more of like a niche crowd where everyone's appreciating other people there instead of being like, go away.
totally. And it's one of those things that we in this area we try to keep it that way, like keep everybody, I don't know. You can
Friends.
only do so much, but you want to keep everybody happy because it's
Yeah.
kind of that I mean, I haven't really surfed that much in California, but um it just I don't know, it kind of you get that weird feeling that you're not a part of the group
Right.
and it's like it's a bummer. It really bums me out because I just so strongly believe that's not what surfing is about. I think some of it makes perfect sense because they want like like this is where
Yeah.
I live and these are my
Yeah.
waves and like I get it like I'm in and I don't know. I'm not like a threat to anybody. I'm not like shredding. I'm not doing airs. I'm not like doing anything really. I'm just kind of want to get a couple waves and
Yeah.
whatever. But I also, I won't really suit up if I know that I have to deal with something like that.
Yeah. I know. It takes a lot of the fun out of it. And being in like mountain cultures, like, there's a lot of that too, where, a lot of people are like, if you're not a local, like, go away. You're crowding up the town. And I don't know. I remember being a kid and skateboarding. It's like you all start somewhere. Everyone's a beginner at some point. So you gotta more teach people the etiquette than just tell them to go away. It's like you're better off having a conversation and teaching people how to be out there than it is just be like, I hate you, go on.
Yeah, it's a hard thing and it's something that comes up pretty often, I would say. So I do think it's something that I don't want to say it bothers everybody, but it's something that it's commonly talked about is just kind of like the way that people are with each other in the water. But I didn't really know that it was also like that with like mountain
Yeah.
culture. Is it like hiking and stuff
No,
or
it's more like uh more snowboarding, kind of skiing
oh,
stuff. Like, like you have your spots, and if you're getting access from a lift, if a bunch of tourists come in and the lift is crowded, and it's just people living in their own world and not wanting other people in it, which it's unfortunate. I understand it, but it's still kind of a bummer.
yeah, I mean, that. it makes sense, of course. Like I think rational people are going to be like, I mean, I get it, but
Yeah.
also you also want to be everybody wants to travel for whatever, surf or snowboard, you want to do something different, so then you become the tourist, you know.
And whatever. And like when I was learning to surf, I was definitely a tourist. I grew up in Chicago,
Yeah.
like skateboarding and, ice boarding. And you go out there and it's like, yeah, I'm out of my element. I don't know what I'm doing yet. And I got lucky. I'm a bigger guy, so not a lot of people want to like necessarily try to fight me. But I've had a lot of friends that have gone surfing and get seriously hassled or fights or over. It's like we're all trying to have fun. Like just have fun.
Yeah. What's the favorite spot that you've ever surfed?
I like Costa Rica a lot. That's just when I went. We surfed like Pavones and all like the Pacific coast, and it was just warm water and empty waves, and it was a lot of fun. But I'm more if I'm having fun with my friends, I don't necessarily care a whole lot about what it is. It can be like the smallest mushy wave, but if everyone's having a good day and everyone's cheering each other on, it's like those are the best days for me. I could really care less if it's the best of whatever.
Yeah, it's more about the camaraderie.
Yeah, and the fun of just goofing around with your friends. It's all like it's not that serious. It's sliding around on stuff.
Yeah. I like that though. Like I like that idea of it too because it, it isn't always like that because it is such an individual sport,
Yeah,
but it can be such a everybody gets together and
yeah. Like what are moments not shared with people? It's like which I've had tons of good days by myself. Don't get me wrong. It's just when it's shared with somebody, it's that much better. I still have days I talk about with my friends, like, oh my God, you remember that day, blah, blah, blah. And when you're by yourself, it's like a great day, but it's
nobody sees it.
no one sees it. No one's talking about it in stories. I'd rather have like even a fun day with somebody that's not as good so they can experience it and enjoy it. And I can feed off of their stoke too. Like when you go out with somebody new and they're getting the stoke for something for the first time, it's like, yes, I love that.
Yeah, there's nothing quite like watching somebody surf for either the first or like, the first green wave. I think that's a
Yeah,
pretty cool
yeah,
one too. And then you can share those stories with other people too, it's like this
absolutely.
instant thing.
So did you get into surfing just being there in Indiana? That's where you picked it up, and that's
No, I lived in New Zealand for 3 years, and
cool.
so yeah, so I
Whereabouts?
learned in Raglan.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so have you been in New Zealand?
No, but I have a few of my really good friends live in Wellington.
Oh, that's a great city. Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
and they go surfing out there all the time. And I met them when they were out in California, and they talk about all the time. Sorry to interrupt. So
No,
you
no, no,
you're
that's
there?
fine. Yeah, so I lived there for 3 years and I learned how to surf there and then kind of like it was actually my boss from New Zealand who told me that you could surf on Lake Michigan and I at first I was like,
Really?
yeah, I was like, no. I was like, no way. Like I live in Michigan. I would know. But I was like grew up inland. So then, yeah, I mean, the lake for me, it changed everything, changed kind of my whole course of life. I was not even planning on sticking around even in this country at all. I was just here temporarily. And then I met my husband and convinced him to learn how to surf. And now,
That's great.
yeah, it's really cool. I I love it. I love the challenge of the lake. It's very tough.
Yeah.
Like on Sunday, I just got a new wetsuit today, thank God. But so on I think it was like um 2 or 3 weeks ago. It was right before Thanksgiving. I went out for a surf, actually right before recording a podcast with my friend that was on the podcast. We had to surf. The conditions were so good. I mean, it was just clean. It was like the sets were like overhead. It was sick. It was,
Awesome.
and you had a group of friends with you, right? So it
Yeah.
was like so fun. We were out for I don't even remember, but I started getting really cold. And I don't really get cold. Like actually, I don't like of course your face gets cold, but I
With the
like
heater. Yeah.
yeah, I was like I had but I did have my like thinner booties on. I accidentally grabbed like my 5 mil ones and not my whatever 8 mil ones for winter, but it wasn't like I wasn't thinking about it. So I get home and like my feet are fully frostbit, like
Oh, I bet.
gnarly.
Yeah.
Well, and so in my mind I'm like it's my boots. So then this Sunday same thing happens. My feet start getting cold, but it's like 30 minutes into my session. I'm like,
Yeah.
what the heck? Had a
Yeah.
hole in my crotch.
Oh.
So the water was going in and just sitting cold water kept flushing into my boots.
Yeah.
So it was making my feet cold. So it's just like stuff like that. So then the whole day I can't get warm. I'm because I was sitting, only my upper body was basically warm because I was sitting in the water, like, and every time I would catch a wave, it would be like, so it's pretty gnarly to be, a lake surfer
Yeah, you're like
and
fighting the storm every time, kind of, to a certain extent, you know?
totally, totally. And, sometimes you're like, oh man, today I can't hang, because
Yeah.
it gets super gnarly. And I just like, you have to know your
The
limits out
same,
here.
it's you're real lethargic when you're all cold like that. Yeah, it's hard to surf cold water.
It is, but there's also like there's a really cool camaraderie with the people that do it, which I really like.
Yeah,
Um,
it's like too fun.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I've said it before, but I think it's kind of like this secret club where
Yeah.
it's like, people are like, shouldn't you be in California? And you're like, no, because
Yeah.
the people can be mean there. But
Yeah.
no, it's just that feeling. Um, it's it's cool. It's
Yeah.
definitely a nice thing. So, but you've surfed. Where in the lake on the lake have you surfed?
Sheboygan.
Oh, I've heard
Yeah.
Sheboygan's awesome.
Yeah, that was when I really wasn't as, I was very new surfer when I surfed Sheboygan, and I kind of stumbled across it. I went out there with the stand-up paddleboard, and we were just like, we were going camping, and I was like, well, I'll bring it in case, we can go paddle. And then it was a windy day. I was like, oh my God, there's waves, like, and was able to get my paddleboard out there and just caught a couple of little waves my first time. And then it really was like, oh my God, there's like surf out here. And I was out there by myself, no one was around. And then just from researching it on Instagram and stuff, there's like a full on community going, all over the lake of surfing that wasn't around when I was a kid. And it's really cool to see everyone getting like genuinely stoked about surfing on Lake Michigan. When I was a kid, I was like, it wasn't even a thought really.
Yeah, it's cool. It's honestly like, and it's cool too. Do you follow the landlocked surfing? Have you seen them?
I don't think so. I'm not sure.
It's pretty cool. We interviewed the guy who's like behind that account, but it's all different types of surfing. So it's like wake surfing, river surfing, and just everywhere, like all
Yeah,
over the place. And it's cool to see people doing unique and different things. I think it's anytime someone's doing something a little bit different, like even just a little bit,
for
it,
sure.
it just makes it interesting. Like you living in a bus, like it's so cool. Though just those changing something a little bit makes, I don't know, it's cool to hear about.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Especially when it's something that kind of like why I like to repurpose things. It's like people think of it as like, oh, that's garbage or something like that, or oh, you can't surf there. That's little small ways, blah blah blah. But then when you do, it's even much more impressive when you're like, oh wow, I had no idea that you could do that with that. It's like a rooting for the underdog kind of thing.
That's that's a really good way of putting it, actually. I haven't thought about it like that, but that it's actually extremely similar to what you're doing by reusing stuff because it's just people saying like there's no value in this.
Yeah, and then putting like an intense amount of value behind it is like, I don't know, maybe it's from being a skateboarder or something, but always being able to like, I'll show you kind of attitude is like, that it's really cool when people persevere and squeeze every drop of fun out of something that doesn't seem like it would be fun.
Where do you source your materials from?
All over. Me and my girlfriend Dallas are big dumpster divers, so we try to reuse and repurpose like everything. With our last Airbnb remodel, we salvaged so much wood from just dumpsters everywhere. It's the amount of waste is kind of unreal, and there's just never a shortage of materials or food or anything you can think of. We've got from dumpster diving. It's insane.
What is the weirdest thing that you found dumpster diving?
The weirdest. I mean everything. We got a generator from the dumpster one time.
No way.
Brand new. It just needed a fuel filter. I mean, I got 2 packs of film a couple weeks ago that I sold on eBay for $400. That was like film paper from, I think it was Germany, like some rare film paper, and somebody tossed, and I was like, oh well, let's see. And I mean, it's insane. Yeah. The big thing is the food. Like the amount of food waste in our country is like astonishing to me. It's unreal. The amount of good food, not even like rotten food. Like so many grocery stores get new produce every day. And they throw away all the old produce, and it's all good food still. So I mean, there's been multiple times where Dallas and I'll have more than we can keep or give away that we just go hand it out to bums that live around Nashville. Well, here, you want a loaf of bread, a bag of oranges, and blah blah blah. Like it's nuts.
I didn't know that they threw it away.
Like we've gotten, like if you live by a liquor store, like a big one, like a box liquor store, check those all the time if you like to drink. We've gotten.
No way!
Swear, because it expires, and if it's bad by one day, you would have bought it the day before, but the next day you won't buy it because it's expired. It's like, well, it's alcohol. It's probably fine, but yeah, like we went to Bevmo when we were living in Tahoe, and we got, I don't even know, like a truck bed full of alcohol. We were just giving it away to friends, like, hey, you want a 12-pack of whatever,
That's crazy. I mean, I know that there's waste for insurance type of reasons because my husband, he's in trucking,
Yeah.
and sometimes they'll get loads that like they're totally fine. Like
Yeah.
they're hauling food like this is forever. I think honestly it's been like 2 years. We have ham in my freezer. They've had these hams. They're nice. They're like the big ham steaks that have the bone in the middle.
Yeah.
And only the box was damaged.
Oh, it's so much of that too.
Yeah.
Where, like, if something spills, like somebody must have like broke a thing of jelly over all these like crates of water bottles, like like 24-pack water bottles, and they just threw them all away. And it's like just like some jelly on the outside. You can just wipe it off super easy. But it's like that with everything. One rotten apple in a bag, whole thing goes. And it's like, or a bruise, or like it's crazy. But as far as like the building materials go, wood is is pretty much free if you're willing to go hunt for it, you know.
Yeah, where would you go to find wood?
In Tahoe, it was really easy because cedar and redwood, which I build the surfboards out of, is everywhere. It's just like a light wood. It doesn't like rot easy. It's, looks beautiful. Um, Out in Nashville, it's a little harder. It's more like building wood than it is like cedar redwood, which is, as far as like building, it's a little more like sought after.
Mm.
Uh, so I would say, any kind of job sites, any kind of dumpster behind any store, Home Depot. I mean, it's literally everywhere.
Can you get in trouble for it?
Um, it's kind of a gray area since it's like a discarded item. No one really seems to care. The most somebody would say is like, we don't allow that, and then we just leave. But I think that's only happened like literally like one time. Like it's really rare that anyone has any problem with it. If anything, everyone's like, yeah, it's kind of insane. Like no one really fights the fact that the waste is wrong, from what I've seen.
Yeah, I've heard of people doing that behind Ulta. The
Alta.
beauty, like the beauty
Oh,
store with
oh,
like
yeah.
makeup and stuff.
Oh my,
And then reselling the palettes and whatever because
yeah.
and I get it, I guess, because it's like a hygiene issue, so they can't sell it if it's been touched by somebody else.
Right.
It's wasteful,
Yeah.
but it's I don't know, it's a weird thing. I think in a way, not the waste, but the specific way that we waste, it's a weird American problem because people can just sue each other.
Yeah, and that seems to be the biggest. It all comes down to lawsuits, like especially if something isn't, they if they question it at all, they'd much rather throw it away than have any kind of liability.
Yeah, it's weird. It's super weird.
It's very weird, and like the hardest thing is when you see like how you got all that meat. It's like the fact that like meat gets thrown away. It's like, man, that is like just as wrong as I feel like it gets. Is to have an animal that has to live probably a bad life to begin with, then get killed and not no one even eats it. It's just like for nothing. And it's like, man, there's somebody. Like you can't donate it to a food shelter or. I know there's certain grocery stores that donate it to farms and they, will give their pigs the old produce and blah blah blah, but not a lot of places do that.
Yeah, it's really weird. We had all these chips. We still have them actually. Organic, like I think the guys looked it up and it was like 4.50 a bag or something. These like chia, multi-grain, whatever, and just we filled the whole van up with chips. It's like
Yeah, I
chips
mean,
forever.
it's so great though. It's like
Yeah.
we have a chip sponsor now for 4 years.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Sponsored by like these organic chips.
Yeah, and it's kind of funny that a lot of the food that they throw away is like really good food because it doesn't really get. I don't know. Maybe people don't buy it a lot because it's probably healthy and expensive. So that food gets wasted a lot. So we're actually eating like really good, healthy food that is kind of out of our budget even. And it's like we've gone to Trader Joe's and just gotten like hundreds of dollars worth of food that
From their dumpster.
yeah, but like they have a high standard and it's like it's good if you're buying the food you want it to be to a certain quality, but we just kind of help ourselves to the dumpster, I guess.
What won't you like? What's your I will not eat this from the dumpster type of.
Um, Anything on the bottom, anything touching the walls. Like, it sounds weird because people think, oh, like you're eating from the dumpster, but usually it's like a box of produce that they've picked from the shelves and it's just sitting in like a box. It's like,
Ah,
it's never mixed in with garbage. It's never like, we never like, it's just sitting with other produce. It's half the time hardly even rotten,
what's the
it's
best thing
really.
you found?
Oh man, that's hard. It's All of it, I guess. Yeah. Anything we can save from getting chucked in a landfill and that we can reuse, I feel really good about.
Yeah, that's so wild. Like, I mean, it all makes sense, but to actually talk about it is really like it's really interesting.
And we get weird looks. People look at us like, "Oh, what are these people doing in there?" And or if we tell our friends, I'm sure people will hear this and be like, "Oh, that guy's a weirdo." But um, it's it's totally not, and I wish more people would.
Is your the lifestyle that you're living, is it more sustainable because you're able to do these things? Like these
Oh,
like
absolutely. It's been something I've been working on since, I've been a snowboard bum. Yeah, and being like a skateboarder DIY kind of attitude, it's definitely something we've kind of harnessed to allow us to live this way, is try to not have a big footprint as far as like bills and debt and overhead, and try to keep it as low as possible to have as much fun as possible.
what's the hardest thing about the way that you live? I guess I'll say that.
It's working for yourself. You never exactly know. Like, I don't have I get, this amount of money every week and I can count on that this much money a year. Or it's definitely more of an art as far as making sure that you're not poor, making sure that you can afford to do these things you want to do, all the while still having a normal life with cars and, trying to better ourselves and not going into debt, but also not depriving yourself of things that you want to.
Hmm. Interesting. Is
Yeah,
it
it's kind of, yeah, it's a dance, I should say, because you can't go all one side or the other, because it's just, I guess you could buy all your food from a grocery store and pay for all your trips, and but it's not the same as having your freedom to be able to pick and choose what you want to do every day. It's hard to beat that for me.
Do you put yourself on some sort of schedule in terms of workload?
I probably should more than I do. I love to work. I love to like make things. So like when it doesn't feel like work when I get to make and do things I want. So I'll work all day long and not have a problem with it. Like if I'm shaping a surfboard, what'll stop me is my hands will hurt. It won't be like that I don't want to do it. So I don't really need a whole lot of motivation in that aspect.
What is the weirdest wave that you've ever surfed?
The weirdest wave is probably in Tahoe on the Nevada side. That's
Okay.
pretty weird. You're at like, like 9,000 feet and surfing a windy wave in the mountains in Nevada. It was surreal. Um, Lake Michigan was a weird one. Yeah, I would say probably Tahoe is my weirdest.
Yeah, that sounds like a sounds like a great. I can picture it. It sounds weird.
Yeah, it's weird. One of my best was probably Pavones in Costa Rica. That was probably one of my best waves.
Is it a point break or a beach break?
It's I guess it depends on where you're kind of at. The place I had the most fun was just north of there. I forget what even the beach was, but it was like one of the longest lefts I've ever surfed in my life. And it was just like me and my friend Kissel were out there and empty wild horses on the beach. And it was just like long lefts. And it was just like unreal. Yeah.
Surf movie stuff.
Yeah. It was like, I almost didn't even like believe there was like, oh, there's still wild horses kind of thing. It was like, I didn't even know there was such a thing really when I saw them, but it
That's
was,
cool.
yeah, it was beautiful.
There's a beach in Delaware that has wild horses.
That's
It's
wild.
Yeah, it's a state park. It's called Assateague. We were there. I think it was like the middle of summer, and it's just like you said, it's so weird. You're just like hanging out on the beach, and then there's just a bunch of horses that show up, and you're like, what?
Yeah, yeah, it's pretty cool. I love the places surfing or snowboarding or that kind of world takes you. It's unreal because there's places I've been through the activities I've done that I would have never probably found myself if it wasn't for them, you know?
Totally. And it does remind you that everything is can still be wild. Like I feel like the world, it's a little bit, I don't know if safe is the right word, but I think
Yeah,
I don't know, like protected or something. And
I love that because it's definitely, yeah, I feel that same way. Yeah, it's definitely a protected world we live in, especially in the States. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but when you get to go to kind of like unexploited places, it's recharging, you know, it feels really good.
I think it's kind of wired in humans to want to have some sort of like, I don't want to say struggle, but some type of like adversity of some kind.
Yeah,
And I think if we don't have it, then you get really bored. And with surfing or like you said, snowboarding or whatever, you kind of like force yourself into this adversity and you're like, make yourself have fun in this adversity. Like
yeah,
you
yeah,
like get yourself out of this pickle.
yeah, yeah. And that's, you know, like the it's like having a puzzle to solve, you know, it's like it's a fun game to play.
So interesting. So interesting. So what is next for you personally, and then what's next for you business wise?
Personally, we're gonna finish this Airbnb we're working on. Hopefully, we'll be done and out of Nashville around June, and then we're gonna go set up a little compound in Illinois. My parents have 8 acres there that I grew up with, and I'm really close with my family, and I haven't had enough time with them. So we're gonna go and build a little um, shop slash home, treehouse home, little barn shop house kind of thing, where we're gonna do gardening and like try to do like very like sustainable practices, I should say, more hands on. And then we're gonna do half the year there and then spend half the year in the bus traveling around. So that's kind of our next step, but that's coming in a few months.
That's awesome. And what about for the business?
For the business, I every day we just got an order for candles and things through Anthropology and Urban Outfitters, so
Oh, that's awesome.
we've been like making candles like crazy people, but it's really good. So hopefully, um, we have a future with them as well and see where
Wow.
that goes. But um, we're just gonna keep doing what we're doing. I can't complain about life really at all. I'm a really lucky guy.
That's awesome. That is so cool. And if people want to reach out to you, where can they find you?
Um, HonestArtProjects.com or Instagram or Tough Peach or yeah, pretty much any social media that way is all good.
Awesome. Cool. Well, thank you so much
Thank you.
for
This was fun.
being a part of it.
Way better than I thought it was going to be.
Oh, good. Yeah, good. I know it can kind of be, it's a weird thing
Yeah.
sometimes
Yeah.
because you never know how it's going to go.
Yeah. Well, I love the podcast. I love everyone that I've heard on there so far. It just seems like hanging out, telling stories with friends. So
Oh,
yeah,
awesome.
yeah,
I'm
I love
so
that.
glad you like it.
Can do it.
Thanks. Thank you. Yeah, it's for us that's what it's about surfing. Like that's the point of the podcast, but it's kind of turned from surfing into like people that surf. Like
Yeah.
what do people that surf how like what are they like? Like what are all the different types of people that, what do they do?
I'm glad you said that because I was like, oh man, I'm like, I surf, but that's not like, I guess I'm a surfer, but there's so many, I didn't even like talk about surfing all that much. It's like so many other topics, you know. Sorry, I should have stayed more
Oh no.
related to, you know.
No, I don't. There's not a right or wrong way to do it, and at least in my eyes, I think it's just like me either. Like the only reason I get to talk so much about surfing is because I started the podcast. You know,
Yeah.
like before it's like I think it's more interesting to have people that it's not only surfing, like it's surfing and this thing and this other thing and this other thing. Then that makes for it's a well-rounded person. Like it's interesting.
And I feel like that's something I love about like the surf community is that most of the surfers I know are all around pretty much like badass human beings, you know, like they surf, but that is like a fraction of the radness that they have in them, you know. It's same with skateboarding. It's like all those people are just multi-talented, kind of, you know, entertaining people to like want to be a part of. So yeah, I really appreciate you having me on.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
And that was episode 25. I really hope that you guys enjoyed it. I will link all of the info from Adam's company and his girlfriend's company in the description of this. This will also be available on YouTube, youtube.com/weirdwavespodcast. If you want to check that out, it's pretty cool. You can get a good view of the bus that they talk about in this episode. Really, really interesting stuff. If you want to donate to us to become a sponsor, you can at paypal.me/weirdwavespodcast. And thank you to all of our sponsors who have already supported us. We appreciate it so much. It helps us get gear and learn more things, and it's really helpful. If you have any feedback for us, feel free to give us an email at weirdwavespodcast@gmail.com. And of course, you can listen to this episode on Spotify, Anchor, Apple Podcasts, and any of your other podcast devices. So thank you so much, guys, and we'll see you again next Monday with another episode.